Welcome back to the Pitch Pod, everyone. I am Jeff Stebbins. Join alongside me, as always, my co-host, Joe Janner. Joe, how are you doing this evening?
Jeff, I'm doing all right. I just wanted to point it out just from the very get-go. There is a window here. I am glad to be a part of the pitch pod, and there is a way out here through the window there, so it's just not complete isolation for me here.
Joe
hashtag safety.
Hashtag Joe has a window. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up. I know that was on people's minds. So thank you, Joe. But besides the window, we are talking about AC Milan, and they have a couple big games coming up here, Joe. We have a Serie A match, and we have I love this time of year. We have match day 1 of the Champions League, and I love the Champions League. It's the best of the best in the world going at it. So hopefully we'll have a fun conversation around those two matches, and who knows what else pops up from those. But Joe, looking at that first one, the Serie A match against Venezia, can you kind of give us a brief overview of that match before we dive into the details a little bit?
Well, what is it? Match week 4, and you're looking at a AC Milan side that's without a win, and probably a lot of their supporters are wondering what it's going to take with where they're at and the personnel and the talent on the squad to get a positive result. So I think they got to go into this game, though, as favorites, and given they do what they need to do to put this together, they should get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't help but think this is, you have a powerhouse team, a historic powerhouse team being AC Milan, going against a squad that was just promoted recently. Venezia, they're obviously very talented. They made it to the Serie A, the main league. To me, it kind of feels like a classic David and Goliath situation with this powerhouse AC Milan and Venezia, the team that just got promoted. I mean, is it that unfair, Joe? Is it that big of a discrepancy between the two teams?
I don't think so. In a league like Serie A, all of those clubs are respectable, and all of those matches are well anticipated because of that, in a sense that it is competitive. I think it has historically been, in some sense, a very competitive league, in that you have clubs that, whether they be, I guess you suggested, a much larger, more historically prominent club versus a smaller club that's came up in the last couple of years, you're still going to be anticipating a good, well-contested match. I think so. People will be inclined to watch this, whether they be diehard supporters of one or the other, looking for a good football match that they can really get excited about.
Yeah, and I say that, and as I'm looking at the results here, it looks like you're right. Milan hasn't won a match thus far. It's early in the season, but still, it's a significant point. And they actually lost against Parma, another team just recently promoted, and they lost that match 2-1. So I think you have a good point there, Joe. But while we're on the topic of these two teams, as Americans, Joe, I think we have to point out the Americans that are going to be on the pitch. Why don't you go ahead and mention a couple?
I think most everybody, when they think of Americans that are currently playing in Europe, know of Christian Pulisic's placement on AC Milan. So I think that, if not the top identity as far as people wanting to know what's going on there, he is the guy that's, scored in the match this last week for the U.S. men's national team, and he does get significant time on the AC Milan. So I think it's something to look at along those lines. I think you also have Musa that plays in there in the midfield, maybe not as prominent when you talk about his role and responsibilities with AC Milan, but he is in fact an American that is playing in Europe and is on a top club.
Yeah, and even though he's out injured, so we won't see him, but we should probably mention a former Kansas Cityan, Busio, as well, playing for the Venezia side, talented player. Joe, can you kind of give us a breakdown of him as a player?
We saw him early in his career, both, in person and as he went through the ranks, developed, having opportunities with U.S. men's national team, maybe not as much as someone would, but he's a dynamic player. I think he's well composed. I think has talent and is still relatively young and could make an impact not only for what he has to offer over playing in Europe, but also maybe potentially later could be with a new hiring in the head coaching role at U.S. men's national team, be something that can put their eyes back on to be a part of what they're doing. So I think it's worth mentioning him there. Yeah, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make this match if he is injured, though.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, number one, do you think he is maybe the future leader of Team USA? And then number two, while we're on the topic of the future of Team USA, we have some kind of breaking news there, Joe. I don't know if the news got to you. I don't know if you heard, Joe, but they have a new head coach for the U.S. men's national team, and it's someone that I think everyone's fairly familiar with. So on those two topics, if you want to, if I could get your thoughts, I think it'd be really interesting.
Well, the first one, I don't know that I would put a leader or a top talent that is potentially going to project U.S. men's national team to another level. But I think that he should be somebody that Poccetino, as the new hire for the men's national team, looks at. And in that role, in that responsibility, probably reevaluate and audit, for lack of better words, the whole system to look and see what is out there talent-wise. And I would hope that he is in a position to look to find players that are maybe not prototypically or already established within the system. So I think that's one thing to be excited about. Now, on the other side, often when at every level, when a new manager is brought in, they're looking for immediate results. That's a part of it. But looking at a change and looking at being somebody that can make a magnificent or significant difference into what's going on. Is Pochettino that person? I think that's probably giving him more credit than is possible, but I'm not going to say that he can't do it. It's early on. I mean, let's give the guy some time to get done and to talk about and to then prove that he's able to do what he said he's going to do. I just don't know that all the hype that's been behind it is as aligned with what it can eventually be into the short-term future and really to that extent, longer term.
Interesting. And I will say this. I think everyone knows Copa was a disappointment. There had to be some changes in the system. And I think watching the previous World Cup, I think a lot of people also recognize that strategy, it relies on a lot of luck. It relies on Christian Pulisic a little bit too heavily. So I hope that moving forward, whether he's the guy or not to change things, I don't know. Kind of like what you said, I'm not sure. A lot of people feel really good about it given his history as a manager. But either way, I think most people recognize, whether it's looking at new players or from a strategy perspective, what we're doing. And if we continue that, it's unlikely we'll have positive results in the upcoming World Cup based on what we've seen so far. So I hope he mixes things up because, putting that much weight on one player who, yes, is extremely talented, but it's so easy for them to go down, get hurt. And then you have no game plan. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But overall, you're kind of waiting to see how it turns out, and you're not feeling too passionate about it one way or the other. Is that what I'm picking up from you, Joe?
I think it's an accurate assessment or analysis of what I'm saying. Exactly that. Like, not overly excited, not overly disappointed, really looking at this as an opportunity to see give the guy a chance, if you will, for lack of better words. I'm not even going back to suggest that his CV or what I think that it could be done or what's in place is going to happen, more so just curious to see if it's different. I think that's the key word. Is this somebody that is willing to do something different and put something together outside of what has been done as a means to achieve the results that I think that everybody thinks that the U.S. men's national team could achieve? So that would be my take on where things are going. Hopefully we'll see it sooner or later. I think the stat is going to be 20-something odd games that he would be in charge of up to the World Cup. So that's going to be a significant amount of matches in time that we're going to be able to see what is happening. I mean, I'm looking forward to the next international break, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. We should be seeing him in action fairly soon. But I agree. I think the key word is different, and I think most people would support that statement for sure. And hopefully it'll be a good different at that. But coming back to AC Milan and their upcoming match, Joe, we got a 75% likelihood that they're going to win this game, just to let you know. But I'd love to get your prediction.
I think they win it. I think that they, without a doubt, use this opportunity after an international break to come back and get the result, to get the win, to start off their season in a positive, or to get their season kicked off now in a positive direction with a win. So I have them winning this 2-0, 2-0 in favor of AC Milan.
Okay, 2-0. So that's a solid win. I also think that they're going to win, and I have it a little bit closer. I think that they have been struggling as of late. I think that they're going against a worthy opponent. So I'm going to have them winning this one also, Joe, but at a different margin. I'm going to have them winning 2-1.
Okay.
So it should be exciting. It should be fun to watch.
Right, I think we agree. It's an opportunity for them to get a win and to get those points that will be much necessary for them to contend for that league's championship.
Yeah, build some momentum. And hopefully, for their sake, that momentum is going to carry into their first Champions League match against another worthy opponent. We have Liverpool, Joe.
You know, that draw and the way we hadn't talked too much about it, but the new setup with the competition, nonetheless, have they been in a group with Liverpool and have been set to play them? You're looking at that being, yes, a tough challenge for anybody to have to be faced against Liverpool to start their Champions League campaign. So I'm looking forward to it in a sense. It should be two good clubs with squads set up to compete, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And just for reference sake here, Liverpool is currently sitting second in the Premier League, Joe. So they're looking good. It's early, but they're looking pretty good. And, I think there might have been some concern about the new manager coming in, Slot, and taking over for Klopp, the legend. But thus far, how do you think Liverpool's been looking?
And they've done well. I mean, you can't take away the fact that they have a lot, if not significant, if not all, of their key players back in for this new season. So I think that's what they've done is a indicator of that. They have players that have had the experience doing well, playing together into a new season, should pick up where they left off. Considering, yes, of course, the motivator and the way that means that Klopp was able to be successful during his realm, I think it lends itself to them doing well as they go forward.
The guy who's really having a heck of a season thus far, Joe, is their striker, Luis Diaz. I mean, talk about a dynamic player. I mean, if you're AC Milan, all these different weapons coming at you, it's hard to just stop one, let alone two or three of these guys. So from AC Milan's perspective, is it control the game, control possession? How do you go about handling a team that's this, star-studded?
Well, you mentioned that Diaz has shown to be one of the top talents, not only within Liverpool, but has been significant within the English Premier League. So I anticipate that he'll do well and carry over those performances and what he's done thus far into the Champions League against a side like AC Milan. For AC Milan, they do have to be aware that they are probably the less of the two sides going into this. I mean, they're obviously not going to come out and say that nor approach it in such a way, but in reality, you do have them as probably the inferior team going into this. So, but you're playing to win. I think in this early stage, I mean, in the way this competition is set up, you're playing to win. It's not necessarily set up in such a way that you're going to just be okay with the draw. And so I think that's what's going to be most exciting about the way this competition is set up, is because of the format, you're less inclined to be okay with early on just playing to see how you fit into the competition and see what your opposition is going to be like, because you're going to play them in another reverse fixture later. So you're really going out there to make an impact early and to get a positive result in the way of a win. So I think that's the way that they're going to approach it. And limiting Diaz's attacking proficiency and the rest of the supporting squad with Liverpool is going to be what they're going to have to focus on. But at the same time, good teams are able to do what they do well. That's them going to be focused to be a strong attacking side that's going to put the ball away in the back of the net and score goals. So looking forward to this match.
Absolutely, absolutely. You got to imagine that Salah's going to be taking the ball into the corner a lot and using that quickness of his. And again, on corners, I think that's when Van Dijk is dangerous offensively and something to look out for if you're AC Milan. Joe, this is another game I can't wait to watch, but why don't you lead your prediction here? It sounds like you've already made up your mind. And you know, I think I know where you're going, but let's hear it officially.
If you're reading me well and you know it, and I just about said it right, Liverpool wins this one. I mean, really the better side. I think that they have more experience in the squad. They're more solidified in a means of way and have a clear identity, and that usually lends itself to getting results and in this case, doing what they got to do to win it. Now, maybe just in this case, maybe just a 1-0 win, though. I got Liverpool getting by.
Okay, close match. I agree. I think Liverpool is definitely the more talented team at the moment, but it's match day one, and I think that Milan's going to start to pick up the pace here. They might feel that sense of urgency. Is it enough to get the win? I don't think so. I think they're going to draw this game at 1-1.
It could go either way. All right. I mean, I think that we're all going to tune in to see how it does play itself out. So we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you get a chance, please like and subscribe. And as always, keep pitching out there.